DEVON versus Ermes took place just 2 days ago, and it certainly was not what a lot of people expected. I've seen several people saying that Ermes was not ready or that he was off his game. There are even some people saying that the match was rigged. But in this video, I want to explain the real reason that DEVON won, and why the result that happened actually makes a lot of sense from a technical standpoint. The real reason that DEVON won is because the match was rigged. In this moment here, you can clearly see DEVON handing Ermes 20 bucks under the table. I mean, you can't really blame Ermes, who wouldn't throw the match for that kind of money. But in all seriousness, the main reason DEVON won is because this was a terrible style match for Ermes. Firstly, DEVON has a longer arm than Ermes does. Because DEVON has a longer arm and because of his perfect setup, DEVON forced Ermes to hold on to him. This means that in order for Ermes to even use his top roll, he first has to contain DEVON's entire top roll chain using only his cupping. This task is nearly impossible. Even Levon's wrist, which was capable of wrist curling 100 kilograms, cracked back a tiny bit in their match. So the odds that Ermes was going to contain DEVON's top roll now that DEVON is even stronger than he used to be were slim to none. This is why Ermes' wrist melted so quickly. DEVON's back pressure and pronation in combination with his long arm is just way too much. But there is still a second reason DEVON won, and this reason is equally important. Many people thought that Ermes would lose his wrist in this match, but they thought he would still win because of his flop press. After all, Ermes was able to stop Levon using this move, so it's gotta be good enough to pin DEVON, right? The problem is that Ermes had only flop pressed 2 guys in recent history, Dave Chafee and Levon Saginishvili. Unfortunately for Ermes, both of these guys are really bad at dealing with a flop press. Neither of them used the correct technical counter to go against the flop. In order to correctly block a flop press, you have to commit your shoulder and control your opponent's pronator. Dave and Levon failed to do either of these things. In Levon's defense, he's probably just too big to commit his shoulder, but it still resulted in the same outcome. DEVON, on the other hand, did both of these things perfectly. He blocked Ermes' flop press just like he blocked Dave's flop press. DEVON bent his wrist as far as it could go, as well as committing his own shoulder and keeping Ermes outside of his shoulder. This leaves Ermes with absolutely nothing. No shoulder, no pronation, and obviously no cup. And this is why DEVON was able to stop Ermes' flop press so effectively. Ermes just hadn't faced anyone who knew how to properly deal with it, so he didn't realize that it wasn't going to work against DEVON. DEVON is skinny enough that his transition to a press from a top roll is very smooth. Another important factor is that DEVON first drove sideways to bump Ermes off of his shoulder line before he transitioned to the press. Oftentimes, transition is the most dangerous part of the move, and it can give your opponent access to his power. This is why we often saw Michael Todd, for example, getting pinned right while he's transitioning. But DEVON did not make this mistake, so that is why DEVON won this match. First, his top roll was strong enough to crack Ermes' wrist. Second, his cupping and shoulder commitment were good enough to block Ermes' flop. And third, his transition and press was enough to pin Ermes. In my mind, this was a near perfect performance by DEVON. I don't think there was really anything he did wrong this whole match except for maybe in round 3 out of straps when he was just messing around. And going forward, I don't know that it's going to get much better for Ermes. Trying to get his wrist strong enough to cup DEVON in this match is probably not going to happen, meaning Ermes' best option to beat DEVON might just be a flop press off the go like Gennady did. But let me know if you guys agree with my analysis of this match. Although I do think it looks like DEVON has Ermes' number, I would still love to see these guys have a rematch anytime. The future is still bright for young Ermes.